What's going on YouTube? Thanks for checking out my video. Today I'm going to be going over how I got the tiger stripe pattern on my Wolverine MTW. I used a khaki base with a green secondary color and black for the highlights. I used Rust-Oleum khaki and forest green from Rust-Oleum. These are camo spray paints. And then I used a airbrush for the black highlights. It's a quick picture of how my MTW looked before. So as you can see, I'm just getting a even base layer with the Rust-Oleum khaki. I did notice later on that I had sprayed a little bit too far back from the gun. It was a really hot and humid day, so actually what was happening was the spray paint was drying in midair before it hit the gun. So I'm just wrapping up both sides, the base. Wanted to make sure I hit every single square inch I could because this is the color that's going to be popping through once the green is applied and the black is going to be highlighting this color. So I use a pretty light khaki. The lighter the better for the base for this because again it's just going to have that higher contrast. And it's going to just give you a better result. So from there I apply these stencils. I got these stencils from freedomstencils.com and they're pretty cool because they have adhesive, obviously, that keep them stuck to the gun even when adding layers of paint. The method I used for applying the stencils was mostly just doing in the same diagonal direction, and then I would do a couple of the stripes overlapping to do like a cross section. The stencils did pretty well with this. You're going to see in the video a couple times I had to push the stencils back down because as the paint dries it kind of wants to curl the stencil, but it was only really in like the small parts of the stencils that it would curl like that. So every now and then I had to go back and kind of push it down, but I didn't really have it did a good job of protecting that base layer. So even with this green secondary color, I was trying to keep it close, but even with keeping it close to the gun, the paint still had a hard time with not drying in midair. If you've never seen what that looks like when that happens, when you go to handle the gun, you'll notice there's like a dust that's all over your gun. And it's literally just dried paint that's drying in the air and just collecting all of your gun. So between takes here, I actually had to try to wipe that off after it dried fully. I just took paper towels and wiped it off and some compressed air and tried to blow it off as well. For this project, I was actually using a old shoe stand. You can see there to get the rifle off the ground. It's okay, it does the job, but the angle from this side was a little bit awkward just because the rifle was kind of pointed down a bit. But, you know, it's fine, it did the job. I had to make sure that I hit every part where the stencil was, which was a little bit challenging because of the weird angles. So here we move to the airbrush section. Apologies in advance for the weird angle and for some of the time not being able to see what I'm doing. I have a hood here that the camera's on top of where the paint is sucked through and pushed out through the wall with a fan. So I'm able to be in the small room without needing a mask or anything. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking at the stencils that have been covered in green by now. That's my dad who's actually helping me with that. and I'm just highlighting the edges of the stencils. So you're essentially trying to trace back over the edges of the stencils with black. And you want it to be pretty heavy on the stencils there. You don't want it to be a really light covering. You want to try to make it dark, because that's going to give you that contrast that you're looking for. So again, I'm going through the edges, and as you can see here, I flipped it over, and this is what it's going to look like before you take the stencils off. It's just going to look like a bunch of black marks all over the stencils, but it looks a little weird when you're in the middle of it, but by the time you take it off, it's pretty freaking awesome. Another thing to note, when I was done highlighting all the stencils, I actually backed the brush up some and just hit the gun at a distance with the black in the areas between the stencils. I didn't do it very heavy, it was just kind of a fine mist, and that darkened the green a little bit, and made it so that it kind of had that overspray effect even more. And it's not super noticeable, but if you don't do that, it's the secondary color, at least for my rifle, it would be a little bit too bright. So yeah, this is the final result. You can see the contrast from the khaki and the green and the black. I think it does a good job in blending in greener environments and matches with my summertime ghillie suit pretty well. If you have any questions on this process or on the stencils I use, please feel free to drop a comment. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I'm going to be continuing to make content periodically with reviews of my guns and the different guns I've used, as well as some gameplay.